I'm prepared to make that motion. And I think I better explain to the people in the audience that 4 votes are required to put a condition, and if one of the 4 does not vote on it at this point in time, what we do is we continue until we have a full quorum of 5.
But let me be clear. We are not, I know they're going to have a problem with the fact that they need 2 permits. Are we not allowed to just approve the project and have that be worked out at a future time? Or having been informed of the fact that they need 2 permits, we are barred from upholding the permit as it came before us?
Lawrence Cornfield with the Building Department. You may proceed and you may uphold the permit if you wish, but if you were to do it that way, then I am then obligated to void this permit as being issued incorrectly, and they'd have to come back and get 2 new permits. So that's probably not the
I think
strategy for
and it's not your fault, it's no one's fault possibly, but the frustration of this project sponsor should be great, given the fact that they've been through all this process and they're only learning of this now. And so not only do they have to get a second permit and have that be approved, they also now have to face coming back here because we're going to have to continue this, and we don't meet next week, so it's going to be 2 weeks before we get the 5th commissioner to weigh in on it. That's not your fault, but it's it'd be pretty understandable that their level of frustration is probably pretty great at this time.
I guess I have a question for the state attorney. We're not modifying, we are correcting a department here.
I mean, unfortunately, you are removing an aspect of the work from the permit. You could hold a special meeting next week just on this one item to get the 5th vote, if you're concerned about timing.
Well, I don't even know she's...
The timing is impacted by the other permit anyway. The other permit needs to be submitted, and then it runs a potential appeal period. That's what's the critical path element, is the second permit.
Well, Mr. Cornfield, could they submit the second permit tomorrow, even though the studio in the front is on this permit, and
I don't think that we would be able to process a second permit when there's already 1 permit
I see.
issued for the same work. I think that would be not appropriate, not possible.
Well, it depends on how many drawings there are that they can, well, anyway.
But, Mr. Cornfield, we can assure this couple that the department will do everything they can in their power to expedite this, correct?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Go, you've indicated
Yeah, I'm thinking, even though I desperately would like to go home, okay, so here are the choices. What I would like to do is to vote against your motion. And then in doing so, because you need the 4 votes, and we'll kick it to a time when Commissioner Wong will be here, at which point in time she may or she may not vote with the other commissioners. If she does, then the proposal that you've suggested goes forward. If she does not, then we're at the same position we are today, where we are failing to overturn, we're failing to secure the 4 votes to put in the special condition. The permit will be upheld for a lack of failing to get the 4 votes, and Mr. Cornfield will be required to nullify the permit and require these permit holders to resubmit for 2 separate permits.
Although the revocation of that permit would be appealable back to you.
yes. I think there's probably
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I think there's another option in there. They could actually file for a revision to remove part of the building.
But it seems as though, Commissioner Go, I understand what your position is, I understand how you feel about it, but I think it's now a question of, under ordinary circumstances, were it not for an error not created by this particular project sponsor, they would be able to move forward. And so it's now, I would think that your vote would have more to do with, are we going to put people through more process for a principle, or are we going to waive that principle, as I did, and I don't mean to raise that issue on the tree, in order to save process, save the city process, save Commissioner Wong from having to go through this, save this couple from having to go through this. And so, you know, the argument then, rather than trying to convince you that it's a reasonable project, would be, the argument would be, in the interest of process and what is fair, I think it would be gracious if you were to change your vote.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, was that the error was in fact from the city in not catching this sometime earlier, and my not changing my vote just makes that error, you know, compounded, because it's clear the will of the board, well, anyway, the three of you, is going a certain way. So that's what I'm struggling with, is I could change my vote and save the many weeks of delay of the project, and Mr. Cornfield and Mr. Sanchez have made clear that they would approve that second building. This is what I'm struggling with, I think, because if they are required to go back and get a separate permit for that second building, then that permit would be appealable.
As would any revision.
Any revision?
So there's more process
Is
they're
that
going to
true?
have to go through. We're just trying to save them one step, which would be to come back here so that the missing commissioner could vote.
Oh, I thought we were saving the appeal for the revision. So a revision of dividing these two permits would be appealable?
I don't think that a revision is going to get to the end result necessary. I think another permit needs to be requested. I think that Deputy Director Cornfield has indicated there's no way to revise the current permit to get a second permit out of it. So the board here, if the board wants to allow part of the project to move forward, it needs to condition this permit by removing the scope of work for one of the two structures. And then a second permit would need to be applied for the other structure.
Actually, Mr. Cornfield understands what I was saying. My idea of a revision is not to be able to create two permits out of this. It's that you can reduce the scope of work in one permit.
Right.
All right, which means that you can reduce it to the point of,
Allowing it to go forward. Yes, of course.
So I'm sorry, Commissioner Fung, I did not follow that.
in other words, should they choose to do that, they could tomorrow file for a revision permit to this one that cuts off the front building.
Which is what you had, well, that was your motion.
Or they can submit for another project. But my motion was not going to carry it earlier.
So I think with all that said, I'm disinclined to change my vote then. Am I missing something, Commissioner Fung? You look as though I may be. I'm not feeling well, and it's very
If you were
late.
inclined to think about reducing part of the process for all the people in this room, including appellants, their capability of appealing occurs on the second permit.
I see. Opponents could still appeal. Okay.
I mean, you know, it's your call. I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just saying that what we're talking about is not making all these people come two times more.
Again, because we're missing Commissioner Huang. I mean, that's the real reason we would have a continuance if I voted against your.
Right.
Okay. I think with that said, now, I'm sorry to be all over the board. I think I will support your motion.
And
I think the motion then is to uphold this permit on condition that the scope be modified to strike the front structure. Is that correct?
that's correct.
On that motion, to uphold, scope be modified to strike the front structure, Vice President Go.
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
With many thanks to Commissioner Go, aye.
President Peterson.
Aye.
Commissioner Huang is absent. The vote is 4-0. The permit is upheld with that modification. Thank you.
Okay.
No further business.
With that, we are adjourned.